watching Let's Chat.
This morning, our good friend Morgan Hill is joining us from Hill & Hill Financial, and we are talking about long-term care, and there are some things you may not have thought of yet, and some surprises along the way. Of course, Morgan, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
All right, tell us a little bit about what we need to know when it comes to risk management when we're planning for long-term.
Yeah, you know what, when we do the work that we do, and we talked about building a better retirement, there are really these four pillars. We just call them the load-bearing walls, and managing risk is one of them. Certainly healthcare is a part of it, which is a separate topic, but long-term care. Problem that I've seen over the years is that people hear the word long-term care and they immediately think, well, long-term care insurance, I can't afford it, and they just completely ignore the topic, but the topic isn't going away.
And there's more to it than the insurance, right?
Absolutely. Folks, first of all, folks are living longer. My mom, Ruth, Ruthie Hill, will be 85 in February.
Wonderful.
My mother-in-law, Miriam, Mimi, will be 85 in January. Their moms were darn near 100. And so folks are just living longer. And what we've seen is there's about a 70% likelihood, based on medical advance, that people are living longer, that folks are going to need help at some stage with what's called activities of daily living. It's the non-fun stuff about bathing and dressing and eating and mobility. And we have to figure out, how do you deal with the fact that 70% are going to have an issue. It's a pretty expensive proposition. It can be as much as $250,000 per person.
Wow.
Somewhere between 3 to 5 years. And too often people think, well, I guess if I can't afford this insurance, I'm on my own, and they ignore it. And there are other options.
Right. Well, and in a lot of times, in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't avoid that. That's not a decision we get to make.
Yeah, I was born in South Texas. I went to school in Oklahoma, had family in Kansas. One thing we didn't do is debate tornadoes.
Right.
They're just a part of it. I've got family who lives in Florida. They don't bicker about, well, hurricanes aren't going to happen. Fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately we're living longer. Unfortunately, most of us haven't really thought through a plan because, first of all, we don't know the options. But second, it's not a fun topic that people want to think about. See, retirement, getting to it, is kind of like getting ready to go to Disney World. We've talked about your baby and the breathless anticipation of Disney. I always, when I've traveled to and from Orlando and used to live there, it's day 5 that people have to think about. It's like, wow, we're really exhausted. The kids are fussy. And sometimes retirement, we're so excited to get to it that we don't really think about the getting through it. And so we really want to explore, one, what are the options and choices you have? And what we've discovered, there are probably about 10 different ways to deal with the issue versus I can't afford long-term care insurance, therefore I'm just out of luck.
I want to talk about those options a little bit. You just mentioned that there are more options than most people think about.
Absolutely.
I mean, is that just, it's a common misconception, obviously.
It's a big one. We talk about how family can be an option. Again, it's not necessarily fun. It's darn sure not fair.
This sounds like my daycare situation,
Exactly.
trying to decide.
But there are folks we work with. We have probably 700 plus families across the country that we work with, predominantly here in Georgia and Tennessee, where family is an option. That's where my wife and I, we're helping out with our mothers. Well, sometimes I have people who have retired with fantastic pensions, multiple pensions. They can pay for it themselves, and they're perfectly fine to pay for it themselves out of their cash flow or perhaps their assets. Well, some people use their home. If they say, I can't live in this anymore, I sell the home and use that to pay for the bills. There are some other insurance products that we have seen that basically it's life insurance that you can convert to pay for care. So instead of waiting until you pass away, you can use that value while you're needing it. And so the key is, there's about a 70% chance. And I think it's great that folks are living longer. Let's have the conversation, even if it's not a whole lot of fun. And then let's just explore the options and make sure that whatever option fits for the family's needs and desires, rather than we're just ignoring something and hoping it doesn't happen. We find some folks get into trouble, and it can really punch a hole in their retirement plan if they haven't thought it through. So we encourage that conversation.
Let's stop avoiding the topic, right?
Absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily encourage around Christmas or the holidays. It's not necessarily fun.
Well, think about it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, but have that conversation that says, do I have a plan that really, it's all about having the peace of mind of knowing that that area of your retirement is really covered and that you're okay.
Well, and speaking about in a couple weeks, you have a retirement workshop where I'm sure this will come up in conversation to some degree.
Absolutely.
That's going to be January 14th and 15th. What do we need to do to visit this workshop and attend?
Actually, you can call our number, 423-855-0270. I believe it's on the screen. And if you would like to attend and get some more information, you can call. We've got staff members standing by.
Perfect.
And again, it's always a nice, fun crowd that will show up. It's at the Ruth's Chris right there on Shallowford Road in the Embassy Suites Hotel. hotel, and it's just a great time to get more education so that people are really prepared to get to retirement,
Perfect.
but also through it.
There's no reason to be scared, especially when you're working with the great Morgan Hill. We'll talk to you again in a few weeks. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
All right, we'll be right back on Let's Chat.